A sauna? No, I don't think so. Like a steam room? No, I mean that's too warm. You can't chill in there. Imagine trying to relax with an ice drink or maybe an ice cream cone. I mean, I don't do dairy anymore, but you couldn't even enjoy yourself. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to look at the second part of the bulk primary refresh token that we revisited last week. We went over how to use the Windows Configuration Designer tool because there was some confusion, and today we're going to look at the second option, which is the AADInternals PowerShell method to generate the bulk primary refresh token for your migration. So I'm in the ice cream would just keel over and melt everywhere at that point. Okay, so to understand the alternate way to make the provisioning package, we have to understand what's actually in the provisioning package. So if you head over to your Documents directory, Windows Image Configuration Designer, this is where the packages live. So this is what we recently made called V2. That's the actual package we need, but what I want to show you is the actual customizations file. So this is, let's pop this open. So this is actually the output of what you create, right? So all the settings, right? Which we're really not doing a lot of settings. We added the admin name here and the computer name, but what we're really trying to do is generate this bulk primary refresh token, and that's the whole token, right? And then put it in this XML file. And what the configuration tool is doing for us is taking the XML file and it's actually building the PPKG for us. Okay, but there's an alternate way to do this because some folks do have problems with the PPKG. The same troubleshooting applies. If you had a problem the first time, definitely check to make sure you're permissioned appropriately in entra.microsoft.com for the Windows Configuration Designer app reg, because that problem could, still persist. But let's break down the actual script. So this is available from Michael Niehaus. It's called a generate AAD package. So that's going to be in the link below. That's the full script. I actually have it open as well. There we go. So that's the full package of how to run everything here. But you need a few things to get going, and we're going to break down the individual pieces. So the first thing you need is to download the Windows ADK, right? So Windows ADK, download and install the Windows ADK. I'll put the link below. If you're doing Windows 11, grab the Windows 11 version. If you're doing Windows 10, there's a whole bunch of other versions down here. But when we grab it, it's very important. We are only installing the Image Configuration Designer, just because you want to save space. You don't need the other things. I have it installed here, but I'll show you what that looks like when you grab it. So if I run the setup file, yeah, so when you download, you're only going to want the Configuration Designer. You don't need anything else here. So you'll only select that, and then you'll hit install, which I already have, so I'm not gonna bother with that. All right, great. So let's get out of that. So what we're gonna do is we're going to open up PowerShell ICE to do this. We're doing Visual Studio Code. Doesn't really matter as long as we get what we want here. So a few things. First thing we're gonna need is the file name parameter. So the file name we're going to call, by default, it's called bulk enrollment expires, and we're going to put in a dynamic date for that. You could essentially put in anything you want. So I'm going to change this to match what I'm doing, and I'm going to call it T2T migrate. Actually, we'll just call it migrate. Because that's how everything is laid out in our script. So we'll just leave the file name as migrate. Okay. We are going to check for NuGet. So we'll do NuGet equals get package provider NuGet error action ignore. That'll help if it's not there, because that keeps happening for some reason, even though we're trying. But even to get the variable, it has to check. So if not provider, then we can just install that. Install package provider name NuGet confirm false force. Okay. Now we need the AADInternals module, right? So this is going to be called AADInternals, and same thing here. That's going to be so we're going to check for it first. So we're going to say get installed module name, and that's going to be AADInternals. Error action, ignore. So if not module, if not AADInternals, then we can go ahead and we can say install module. Yep, module name AADInternals force, and then we can import it. Import module AADInternals. All right. So the first thing we're going to run is we're going to get the access token. So now that this stuff is there, we could put a little break here because we've kind of taken care of our groundwork. We've gotten everything we needed. So the next thing the script does is get the user. So get AAD internal access token for AAD graph. Okay, the resource is AD in access token for AAD graph. Resource is URN device registration.windows.net. Nope. There it is. And we save that to cache. That's the equivalent of authenticating to anything else in the graph. So that's going to prompt. You're going to want to make sure you have the right credentials to do that. Like I said, I typically use GA. So we're definitely going to recommend that. So this is the part where we actually create the bulk primary refresh token. So the BPRT is what we're calling it. And we're just going to new AAD int bulk primary refresh token. And we're going to go with the standard get date. We're going to go for the standard 180 days. So we'll do 179. Okay, great. Now before we move forward, when we run this, we want to we want to make sure we have our output folder. Probably should have started with this. Well, we'll go back to that. Let's get that after. Okay, so now we got our values. So now what we want to do is generate the XML. So the XML is actually going to get generated in real time because we're going to put the primary refresh token in there. So that'll be, XML. Okay. Actually, I'm going to call that XML string, just to not get confused. So XML string at quote at. That's how you top that off. And I have the template written down here, so I'm just going to copy that and throw it in. So you see that everything's pretty standard, except for two things. So the one thing is we're going to make a new GUID. We're just going to inject the new GUID command, so it has a unique identifier. And we're actually putting BPRT in there. Because remember, when we generated the package from the configuration designer, that BPRT value is that token we need. And that's the most critical thing here. So that'll get injected as soon as we create that. So the XML is being written in real time. So now what we're going to do is we are going to output that file to where we are currently, right? So we're going to say XML string out file. We're going to use our file name variable, filename.xml, and we'll keep the encoding UTF-8. UTF-8 force, and that'll output that for us. So let's give this a shot so far. I'm going to save this in a folder. I'm going to put in ctemp. I'm going to make a folder and I'm going to call it bprt. Okay, so I'm going to put us in the directory here that we're supposed to be in, temp bprt, so that I can run the script from here and generate my out file. Steve. Okay, so now if I head to the directory, yep, ctemp bprt. So you can see that I have the token saved as JSON, and I was able to create my migrate XML. And the migrate XML should have the unique GUID up here and the bprt. So that's everything we need. Now what we have to do to finish out our script is we have to make sure we pass that to the advanced deployment toolkit we downloaded, so we can execute the command to turn that into a package. So the next part we're going to do, let's block this off a little bit. Okay, the next part we're going to do is we are going to find the actual executable. And typically it's going to install to programs 86, but just in case and to make this more transportable, we're going to run some test paths here. So if basically we're going to look for the test path in the 64-bit node, then we're going to do an else if, and we're going to look for it in the 32-bit, and then finally we're going to just throw an error if we can't find it at all. Okay, so if test path hklm software wow 64 32 node, let's see here, for Microsoft Windows kits installed roots. Okay, I'm actually going to copy this so we don't have to write it again, because we are going to need that later. Okay, so if that's there, we're going to establish the kits root variable, because that means that's where our path is for the actual ADK. Get item property value, and the path is going to be that path, and we're going to get the value of kits root 10. Okay, so let's take a look at that real quick, just so we know what we're looking at. So I'm going to do hklm hkey local machine. So I believe mine is in software, Microsoft, should be Windows kits. Windows, no, Microsoft Windows kits. Microsoft Windows kits. No, mine is actually in the other one. Okay. Well, I'm glad I checked. Does that make sense? Software. Oh, actually, hold on. Software. Software. Wow, 3264. Okay, Microsoft. There we go. Windows kits, installed roots. And we want the kits root path, and there it is. So that's essentially what we want. All right. Okay. So if that's where it is, we establish the value as that path. Else if, now we look for the other one, which I didn't find. So I'm glad we checked. And this is why we have this here, which is just straight up software without the WoW 6432 node. And I might have said that backwards, 32 and 64. We're checking for 32, and if not, we go 64. So don't quote me on that. That almost doesn't matter. And we're going to do the same thing here. So kits root equals get item property value path. Same thing. We kill that. and we get the name of kits root 10, because it's the same exact thing. If it's not there at all, we just throw an error. So we'll write error. We'll say ADK is not installed. Great. And lastly, now that we have, we know where the root is, we're gonna turn that into a variable. So the ICD.exe, so image configuration designer exe, is kits root assessment. So let's see here. So that's gonna be kits root. Kits root assessment and deployment kit imaging and configuration designer x86 ICD.exe, and that's the actual file. Now what we'll do here is we'll do a quick test. If not, test path. So if nothing comes back, then we will throw an error, and we'll say ICD.exe not found, and we'll return. All right, so let's see how we're doing so far on this piece down here. All right, I didn't get any errors back, so I'm going to assume my ICD.exe works. All right, and in the final piece, we're just going to pass our XML through to that that file there, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go invoke command or ampersand. We're going to pass the executable along, and we're going to say build provisioning package. Customization XML is going to be the file name XML. And our output path, we're going to call it the same thing. Package path is going to be file name.ppkg. So I should be able to call that. Let's go back to our path, and now I have the runtime provisioning package called migrate ppkg. Again, any errors there with authentication, you're going to want to check the Microsoft Entry Portal. I kind of just broke it down, but again, I'm going to put the link below. You can just run the Niehaus, get AAD PPKG script. That'll kind of take care of this in one shot for you. You might have to tweak a few things, but this is just so we understand, if it does break down, what each piece does and how it works. And it gives you another way to get the provisioning package. So hopefully that helps. If not, then it doesn't help. I don't know what to tell you here. So, later.